Hi everyone, I'm Bonnie Hunter and welcome to Quilt-Cam, the first week of April 2017. I'm so excited to be here tonight for a couple of reasons. Number one, I have a voice. How many of you didn't know I was fighting bronchitis over the past couple weeks? While we were moving, I had no voice, I couldn't breathe, I was underwater, and I just kind of kept it off of social media because it was just one more thing I didn't want to talk about. Push through, move on, take a lot of NyQuil and Dayquil and Mucinex and deal with it. And the other thing is the removal of the thing. I had an episode with basal cell carcinoma, and that is over and done with and gone, and the stitches are out, and it's just barely in anything on my forehead. You can't hardly see it. It'll fade. The bangs will cover it. But the most funny thing of all was I got a text from my son when I was at the doctor yesterday getting the stitches out. And he said, "Where are you?" And I sent him a picture. I said, "Look, it looks like Harry Potter." So I walk in the front door after I reached home. And he's coming down the stairs with his phone. And his phone is playing the Harry Potter theme song. I love this kid's sense of humor. He's just an awesome, awesome kid to have around. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been able to do Quilt-Cam because we were in the middle of a move, and the cabin has no Wi-Fi whatsoever. We even found out that we couldn't get HughesNet or Blue Sky or whatever those satellite companies are because of a clump of trees that was right to the side of the driveway blocking the signal. There was just no way to even do that. In fact, we couldn't get HD channels for the satellite for hubby's TV, and when he can't have his sports channels, he's just not a happy camper. And so this weekend, that clump of 4 or 5 trees came down. Now I have 42.5 acres of trees. If you put your hand on one tree and reach out, you're going to touch 3 other trees. So it's not that we were destroying trees that had a right to live. I'm a tree hugger, but not in that sense. In fact, if some storm came through, and we do get a lot of storms, and it gets windy up in the mountains, those trees could have taken out part of our roof. So it was good that they're down, and guess what? Now I've got 4 bars of 4G on my cell phone. Still can't get HughesNet, but what we're going to do is update the cell plan on the phones to make that so that I can just use my phone as a data hotspot for staying connected. Probably not enough for Quilt-Cam, but it'll work for blogging, it'll work for email, it'll work for keeping up with the social media that I need to do. So how are you tonight? Have you had a wild rush through the rest of March, and here we are into April? We've got dogwoods blooming, redbuds are blooming. I'm driving to Birmingham tomorrow. It's going to be an awesome drive. And yet I'm hearing from people in the northern climes like Alaska and Maine and places where the snow is still on the ground. So I won't torture you too badly with the fact that I sat on my back porch and ate a fudgesicle this afternoon because the weather has been absolutely beautiful. If this is your first time at Quilt-Cam, I want to welcome you. Quilt-Cam is not something that happens on a regular basis. We try to do it a couple of times a month as we can fit it in, but my travel schedule is really pretty crazy. So we fit it in where we can, when I'm home, when I have a Wi-Fi signal, and we have an evening to spend together. What I'm working on this week, do you guys remember these? These were my Addicted to Scraps column blocks a few issues back with Quiltmaker magazine. I'm not even sure I remember which issue it is. But this project fell by the wayside, I think around the same time that our mystery quilt came out. And I've only got a few blocks done. I was alternating the backgrounds from blue to black so that it has a very vintage look but not strictly patriotic. I have some kits that I've got all cut out, and the block pattern is in the magazine, so you can get it. And I like to work with strip sets when I can, so I cut some parts and made little kits and pinned them together, and we'll be working on that tonight. I even have this one. This must have been where the bobbin ran out. One of the last times that we worked on these is like, okay, the bobbin's out. We're done with Quilt-Cam for the night. So this is what I'm going to do. I've also got some binding that I have got to get stitched together. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do, is get the binding sewn, and then we'll move on to these blocks. I love to see what you're working on. If you want to share, if you're watching on Facebook Live where this is streaming right now, you can post your photo in the feed for Facebook so that everybody can see it right there in the comments section. If you want me to hold it up and share it to everybody, I need you to email it to me, and my email address is quiltville@gmail.com. Now, usually we get anywhere between 75 and 100 emails in during the 1 hour that we're here for Quilt-Cam. So I try to get to what I can. If we don't get to yours, don't worry about it. We'll get to you next time. We'll just be here and do the best we can. My objective is to get a little bit of sewing in, while maybe you get a little bit of sewing in, and we can sew together. Tonight I'm sewing on my I haven't switched it out yet. Ran out of time. I had to pack the van and ran out of time. I had good intentions, but we know where those go. This is a 1950s Singer 301A short bed. Short bed, so it fits in the cabinet. I love that. I've got some long beds also, and those ones are great as a tabletop machine. They don't fit in a cabinet. And it's a very speedy stitcher with a slant needle on it, straight stitch only. And I'm just going to grab these binding strips and sew them end to end on the diagonal. This is the binding that I'm going to use for my Straits of Mackinac quilt. It's in the quilting machine behind me. I'm not even quite halfway yet, maybe 25%. But I think when I fold this stripe over and over, and it's only going to be about 1/4 of an inch wide, I think that's going to be a nice little pop there for binding. And this was in my stash from who knows when and who knows where. I don't think I ever bought it. And it's actually a fabric from Joann's, and it feels just fine to me, and it's 100% cotton, and it's going on as binding. So I play by the feel when it comes to fabric. I've used a lot of more vintage pieces that don't have anything on the selvage. And we know as quilters what feels good and what the fiber content is. So we just want something that feels like nice quality cotton. And we're going to sew it right in. I have been on a basting stitch. Oh dear. Well, that's not fun. I just lost my whole stitch control knob. Let's see if I can shine this light in here. I have never had that happen before. So where is the hole that this goes in? Okay. Well, that's not fun. We got to come another angle here. I think that this just got a little bit loose. Aha. Just can't see it. Well, what are you going to do when you got a screw loose? Holy cow. This is when I need a sewing machine repair guy, because how do you get in there? Okay, I'm going to tilt this up this way so that I can see that hole. There we go. I got it. I'll screw that in just a little bit. I had the machine on a large basting stitch earlier so I could do the stay stitching around the string piece border, and we are going to go with a smaller stitch length, and we're going to screw that in so that it does not get lost. Okay, that was scary. I get this vision of something that Lucy Ricardo would do. So all I'm doing here is taking the border widths, or sorry, the binding widths, and these are 2-inch strips. I like a 1/4 inch finish on my binding. So I use 2-inch strips, and it makes a very nice tight 1/4 inch. And I am just laying these at an angle across each other, and then I am sewing the diagonal from V to V, and then I'll trim the excess off. I'm not trying to match stripes or anything. I'm not that crazy. This machine has a knee control, and at first it felt really, really weird, but the more I use it, the more I like it. Bias is a wonderful thing. I'm not drawing a line or anything. I'm just aiming and shooting from V to V. And if my seam curves a little or is not quite right, because it's bias, it'll still work just fine. Yes, this was one of those jobs I was supposed to do earlier that I didn't get to. So I'm headed to Birmingham tomorrow. 11 days with 3 guilds. It's going to be a wild ride, and I'm driving. I'm driving because otherwise I would need to ship so much stuff that the cost of shipping alone would make it prohibitive. And I can drive there in 7 hours, although it may take me 10 because there will be stops on the way. But it would take me almost as long to fly it. By the time that I have to drive to Greensboro to the airport, fly to Atlanta, sit around for a layover, fly to Birmingham, get my luggage, be picked up, drive to wherever I'm going to be, I've almost got the 7 hours right there. So this should be just a piece of cake. I know about the bridge closures in Atlanta. We've already routed so that I can go south to 20 and then head over. So that should be just fine. I've been that route before. We're getting down there. I've got 10 of these. This quilt turned out to be 96 by 96, so it's kind of a big Hummer. So here's tonight's question for you. If you don't want a big quilt, but the pattern is for a big quilt, are you able to easily size it down? Do you find it easier to size something down or size something up if the dimensions were too small? I'd appreciate your response, quiltville@gmail.com, or you can leave your comments in the comment section on Facebook. Last one, and then this job is done. I will do the ironing of this after we are done with Quilt-Cam. Okay, so that can just sit back here and be my leader ender for the next thing I'll be working on. Now, you can see the machine, I think. I switched cameras, so maybe that might be a little bit better. So what I've got here, first of all, I'm going to finish this one. This block is called 4 in 9, so we've got 4 patches in a 9 patch. And what makes this one look extra interesting is that the center square matches the colored squares in the 4 patch. So it gets this really kind of neat design going on in the middle. And I have envisioned a layout for this that I think will be really sweet, and it may involve strings. And this is likely the project that I'm going to take to Alabama with me, just so that I can get all of the pieced blocks done and then concentrate on the strings when I get home. Okay, this on here. And then we're ready to go. Just snip this binding off and set it aside. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to do some checking for some emails that are coming in. I've heard the phone vibrating over here, so that means that things are live and busy. Tracy says, tonight's project. This is Tracy from Richmond. I am working on hourglass blocks tonight. Thanks for Quilt-Cam and safe travels to Birmingham. So she's just about 4 hours up the road from me, and she has sent pictures of the hourglass units that she's working on. So this is Tracy in Richmond. Tracy, Richmond is one of my favorite cities to drive through. I absolutely love the history there, and I take the back way when I go up to Richmond, so that has me going through Danville and on up and then on over. And Virginia has just about the prettiest scenery that you've ever seen anywhere. So I will be coming up through your area early May, late April, early May. I've got some workshops in the Manassas area and then on up into Maryland. So keep those things blooming for me. There's also some really great antique malls in Richmond that I love, and I've got a couple other favorite haunts that I like to stop at in Glen Allen. So I love your area. So nice to know that you're turning in tonight. And The bronchitis is still a little bit. Grammy says, I'm going to teach a scrap class at a local quilt shop. So this is from Grammy Dwin, and she says this Saturday it will be the clothesline baskets, and they're using 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch strips. So she is teaching these scrap baskets, the ones, the wrapped coils. Have you made any of these? I've always thought these looked really fun, and I have some that have been gifted to me, and I would love to make them because sometimes I've got scraps that are too narrow for using for string piecing. They would be perfect for this. I love this. I'm giving this one a biggie size because I love the colors in it. Look how fun that is, especially with Easter around the corner. Those clothesline baskets are just awesome. I also like the tile work. Is this in your kitchen? Can you see that? Do you see the tile, the tile border behind the baskets? Leave it to a quilter to put patchwork on point in her kitchen wall backsplash. Okay. This one says Quilt-Cam Show and Tell from Elaine Green in Severna Park. So she says, I also had Mohs surgery, MOHS, that's what this is. It's microscopic something something, on my face for basal cell. Yours looks to be healing nicely. Thank you. I made 2 table runners using a Lemoyne star. These are my own design and color layout, fun to make. But Elaine, you didn't attach your photos. There's no photos. So Elaine, email me back, hon. I want to see those. Oops, she already knows. Let's see. Oh, this is Faye. This is not Elaine. Faye says she's working on paper-pieced blocks for hearts and hands. There are 50 of these, and she's got only 12 left to go. But look at these sunbursts. I also love the minion on there. Great minion on the design wall. Those are just beautiful. So they're paper-pieced in a circle, and are they going to be appliqued on? Our center is going to be appliqued. Inquiring minds want to know. Those are just gorgeous. Texas Tumbleweeds is coming from Liz, Creative Liz, who says, just finished binding my Texas Tumbleweeds quilt I started in your workshop in Idaho Falls last November. I like how it turned out. And she sent a photo. Oh my gosh, that quilting is perfect. What great texture. So here's her Texas Tumbleweed pattern, or her quilt. The pattern is found in my book, More Adventures with Leaders and Enders. This is such a fun one. We've taught this as a cruise project. The whole quilt is made with 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles and 2.5 inch squares. And there's just a whole lot of flipping stitching corners going on. And we also get bonus units from behind those corners, which is extra nice. That is just beautiful. Beautiful. Happy to see that. And please tell everybody in Idaho Falls hello from me. Polly says, hi from Las Vegas. Not stitching tonight, but pressing and starching fabric for a baby quilt. Hot air balloons is the theme, and it's for a baby girl. So she's busy here. She's got her table there with her fabric, and I see some starch or fabric, little fabric pressing there going on. Wonderful. It's really fun to have everybody tune in tonight. Thank you for joining me. I wasn't sure when we were going to get to do this again. I actually drive home the day before Easter. I'm home Easter Sunday, and the following day, Monday, and then Tuesday I fly to Texas. So this month is really kind of a cluster of busyness. So let's do this thing. Here's my 4 corner squares and my center square. So the first thing I need to do is sew these together. And then we're going to make 4 patches out of them. I did a seam test earlier to make sure that I'm getting the right unit size from these. And I think I'm going to do one for the next one also. Just because I need something to be leader and endering. I think these would be very easy blocks to stitch up while I'm in Birmingham, and all I'll need to do is grab a couple of bags of the right width of strips to be able to do these. Okay. I've got my little iron on over here. I'm going to give this a press to the dark without spilling my water. At least I thought I had my iron on. It's cold as an ice cube over here. I didn't turn it on. All right, finger press. Now I make my strip sets about 1 inch longer than I need. So I just kind of figure out, okay, how many subcuts do I need to do these 4 patches? Figure out the math, how long that strip set would be, and add myself about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch just for the ability to trim up or correct myself if I cut at a crazy angle. And then I'm going to cut this in half. And do you remember how we do this? You put one on top of the other so that you're subcutting these in matched pairs. So I am putting the red on the neutral and the neutral on the red. Give that a better finger press there. And I can feel those seams nest with each other. Those are going to hold each other close pretty securely. And then I just like a small ruler. This is my Quiltville ruler from Creative Grids. It's available on the website. Many shops have these in this size. They're kind of collector's items, but they are the best tool ever for doing small subcuts. If I were sitting here with a big 12-inch ruler, I would not be as accurate. And I love small rulers for doing small jobs. So we just need to cut 4 sets for 4 patches from this. So I'm cutting these. And I don't usually cut sitting down. I don't like to. I just feel all hunched up when I do this. Okay. Just a little bit of waste. There's not a whole lot, but I need this margin for doing the squaring up, or if I ended up with a little bit of an angled cut, I have room to correct. So it's best to give yourself a little bit of leeway. And I'm just going to send these through. Remember with 4 patches that you're sending the dark square first so that the top seam allowance is going to be pointing up towards the needle. That means that the seam on the back of your 4 patch is not going to fight with your feed dogs, and you're going to get a tighter nest with these seams. Little 4 patches are just about my favorite unit ever. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing to this one, because one block needs to be the leader and ender for the other. Iron, are you hot? Much better. Okay. We'll nest this and we'll cut. I had thought too that I could move the camera and show how to spin the seams. I don't know if that would be helpful to anybody. I've had questions on how to do it, but it's one of those things that you can't video it while you're holding the camera in your hand, and you need both hands to be able to do it. But it means removing the camera from the top of the laptop and attaching it to a stand. So maybe we'll do that another time. Whoops, wrong line. I'm only cutting these this size, not bigger. Slid just a little bit. There we go. So just a tiny bit of leftover, not a whole lot. Okay, I'm going to just send one of these through. And these 4 are going to be leaders and enders for the one that I'm working on. Now maybe I can do this way. Okay. So here is the back of your 4 patch, and you can see that the center seam is going side by side. I've got this seam is pointing towards 1 o'clock. This seam is pointing towards 6 o'clock, and they're anchored by the seam that goes across, right? So we would have 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Hopefully I'm not having that backwards here because I'm doing this mirror image in the camera. You want everything to circle the way that the top seam allowance is pointing. So because the seam is pointing this way, I'm not going to take things against that seam. They have to go that way. So I am going to hold 3 o'clock down, and I'm doing this blind while watching in a thing, and all you have to do is lift both layers of 9 o'clock and make those go up. Can you see that now? Does it show? We've got our little 4 patch in the center, and that's all there is to it. So people make it look so hard. They're twisting and they're snipping and they're unpicking with their seam ripper, but all you've got to do is get 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock going in opposite directions, and that's all that there is to it. So we're going to do that to all 4 of these. So I can do that again. So here's 12 o'clock pointing towards 1. 3 o'clock's going to go down. Both layers of 9 o'clock are going to just lift up. And there's a couple of stitches that will just automatically release in the center of that seam right there. So then you get that little nice little 4 patch in the center. And then you can press this. I'll take this to the iron after I'm done spinning these. And it gets to be fairly quick where I can just look at it, hold one side down, and lift the other up. When you do this, you end up with 4 patches that will nest each other, especially if you're putting them side by side in a border, or if I had these blocks joining each other in the quilt. Can you see how these seams would? That one won't. That one didn't get spun. I think that's when I decided to spin them. Okay. Can you see how the seams will nest no matter which direction I turn the blocks? So sometimes I spin, sometimes I don't. It depends on what unit that 4 patch is going to end up next to in the quilt. Sometimes it's necessary to eliminate some kinds of bulk. Sometimes if the unit that's coming next to it will fight that spin, I won't do the spin. I'll end up pressing that center seam open. And did I do them all? And we're going to give those a quick press. Okay. Alrighty, so let's check back in and see what's going on out there in Quiltville land. Kelly Gill says, Quilt-Cam. Hi, Kelly. How are you? She says, it's a beautiful morning here in Nimitabel. Is that right? Nimitabel, New South Wales. The house is quiet. Husband's at work and daughter at school. We are on the countdown to Easter holidays. First term finishes on Friday, and she is on holidays until the day after Anzac Day. I am going between 2 projects today. I am practicing free motion quilting on my ocean wall hanging and a scrappy split 9 patch for the lounge for winter. So need it finished as winter is around the corner. You know, it's one of those things being in opposite hemispheres that we're so hooray for spring, and you're like, oh no, summer's ending. But she's got some beautiful photos. Oh wow. So this is, if I turn this, will that work? Yes. Okay. So this is some beautiful free motion quilting that she's got going on, that she's working on. And that does look like water. That is absolutely stunning. And then she's got, ta-da. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. This is her split 9 patch, and it's put on point and framed. Gotta watch where I'm putting this in front of the camera. So you can see her split 9 patch block in the center, and then she's got 4 different corners added, and then it's framed with some sashing strips. Really, really nice. So glad to have you with us. Enjoy your Easter holidays. Gloria Davis says, T-shirt, watching while going through my mail. Love your shirt. Where did you get it? And she's from Columbus, Ohio. So you like this? This was actually a gift. While I was teaching for a guild, it was gifted to me, and I don't even think it does have a tag. Does it say anything? No, it just says like wash, wash, wash. I can't read the tag from here, but I'm not sure who manufactured it, but I love it because of the vintage machine, and I do like pink. So thank you for noticing. it was just a very casual day today. Before I came and turned on Quilt-Cam, I've been loading boxes of books and tools and merchandise into the van. Elaine says, so glad I could join you tonight. It's been a while since I've been able to join you live. I will make blocks smaller if I need to make a baby quilt, and we'll make extra blocks to make a larger size quilt. So instead of making just less blocks for a quilt, she takes into consideration the scale of the design. I happen to think that a quilt looks better, more repeats across the quilt and down. It looks more interesting because you get the secondary designs going on. So she thinks so too. Instead of doing a quilt 3x3, she would keep it at 4x4 and just make the blocks smaller so she doesn't lose the integrity of the design. Thank you for sharing that with us tonight. Pat Levac says, need advice. Okay, everybody put your advice hats on. Bridesmaid fabric used in a quilt. She says, hi from Charlestown, West Virginia. I've been tasked to make a baby quilt for a boy using fabric that was in a bridesmaid dress at the mom's wedding. The fabric is a satiny and cranberry color. Help, what can I do? How can I incorporate this fabric into a boy quilt? It's cranberry and it's shiny and slinky. I don't know. First thoughts first. Can you back it with something to give it some stability? And then before I even did that, I would tell the mother that, this fabric is not going to hold up in a baby quilt. It would be fine for a wall hanging or something that's decorative, but I don't know if I would put satiny, shiny, whatever. That stuff, it shreds while you're trying to work on it and everything. So anybody who has any information for Pat, please send an email. Cindy Ecker says, your question for tonight. Cindy from Bandon by the Sea. I'm not working on anything tonight, just enjoying what you are doing. I don't mind enlarging or making smaller, depending on what I need. Your quilts are so easy to change the size. I usually make lap to twin size quilts for my giveaways. You make quilting look so simple. It is pretty much simple, really, when you break it down into units. You don't see me doing a lot of curved piecing, do you? There's a reason for that. I'm not really great with curved piecing. She says, I do know from my years of sewing there are lots of cool tricks. Have a blessed day. Thanks for all you do. And she loves the Straits of Mackinac quilt, and that's Cindy. So she has no problem making bigger or smaller. Nancy Neely says, I'm making a double slice quilt with Cafe fabric. I'll try to send a picture. Looking forward to meeting you at Quiltville Fans of Washington retreat in May. Hooray! So that's on the May agenda. That's after the trip up to Maryland. I come home for a few days and then I fly off to Washington, and we're hoping that Washington's going to be nice by May. Hope so. Okay, so we are going down here. Oh, Shelly Carpenter, I just saw your email about the shirt, and hopefully you got the other answer. I have no idea. It was gifted. It was gifted to me while I was teaching at a guild, so I absolutely love it. This one is from... There's no name. Come on, you guys. You got to put your name in your location, okay? Helps me out. Working on a quilt for a friend whose son died suddenly from addiction. I am using his son's flannel shirts. Thank you for letting us into your home. And my thoughts are with you while you work on that quilt. Making memory quilts from clothing can be a really hard thing to do. Fabric, I really firmly believe fabric has memory. And, it's had a whole lot of living in that garment. So I hope that it brings a lot of comfort to who you are gifting it to. Maureen says, tumblers. She finished her tumbler quilt and she enjoys Quilt-Cam. And oh, how cool. These are like stained glass tumblers. So here's her photo. She has put sashing strips of black between her tumblers and then put sashing between the rows. So they look like stained glass. But I absolutely love her setting. Did you see that? No seams need to match anywhere. Brilliant. Especially for doing something like this. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so I'm going to lay out this 9-patch guy, and the only thing I need to remember, and if you have wild math skills, you could make a 9-patch block in any size, correct? You know how to do this. Okay. You just got to keep all the 4 patches going the same way. And is that the way that I did it? Yes. Okay. Just double checking. The nice thing about this layout, because the 4 patches don't turn, if you have a stripe fabric, the stripes are all going to be going some way, the same way, which is kind of nice. Okay. Put those in, and then we're going to sew these together. Sometimes I feel like I'm on autopilot with my definitions or my explanations. This is how you know you did something right. When the 4 patch is the same size as the square you're joining it to, your seam allowance was in the right place. Okay. I chain my block parts. Sometimes those seams like to flip, and I think I just flipped one. And then when I've gone as far as I can, joining these 3 units together, I'll use another 4 patch part as the leader and ender. Then we'll spin this one. It's just that simple. Just be sure to look at 12 o'clock and see which direction that seam allowance is pointing, because that's the way that everything's going to circle. And once you figure that out, piece of cake. Also, be sure that all of your 4 patches are going through the machine the same. Don't turn any of these around and have the white square go first. Keep them all going with the dark square first, and then they will all spin clockwise. Okay. So I've got these 3 units, and I'm going to leave them chained together, and I'm going to press these. Yep, that guy flipped. Okay, here's another question for you. If this happens for you, do you see that this flipped open? Would you go back and unsew that and fix that seam allowance? Or would you just mash it flat with an iron? Guess what I'm going to do? I will mash it flat with an iron. It's already sewn. It doesn't have to nest to anything else. So that's the key. I will pick it out if it has to nest and isn't. But this is a plain square with a pieced unit. Can you tell? Nope. Okay. And now we're going to add these 3. And I can feel that little seam wanted to do the same thing, you stinker. Okay. And then I can send another 4 patch unit through. Okay, so this block is now all chained together, or what I like to call webbed. How many of you have already got this technique down? I am asked about it every time I go teach a workshop, and people want to know, how do I web? How do I web? I just don't get it. Well, this is how you web. Do you see that the rows are complete with the chaining threads between the rows? Leave them all together. There's no need to take them apart unless I need to press something open. And you can see I'm also doing a lot of finger pressing, which does a great job. Use your nails. Get a good crease on that fabric. And then I'm just going to fold one over the other, nest the seam, and sew. So the way I sew is strategic pinning. I will pin if there are points to match. But if there's no points, just straight nested seams, I just sew nested seam to nested seam and make sure that those seams stay nested, and then nest the next one and sew to it, and then nest the next one and sew to it. And there have been times when I have sewn an entire quilt and didn't use a single pin. Does that mean that everything matches perfectly all the time? No. Do I have to pick out sometimes? Yeah. But I really, really dislike pinning. Okay, one more 4-patch. Okay, and that's gone as far as that can go. Now the good thing about this, I will have all 4 of the 4 patches made for the next block by the time it's time to lay that block out. Yep, that one could have used a pin. Okay, so now this block is done. It stays as our leader, and we get this next one ready to lay out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to press these guys real quick. All right, fun. And a center. And the stripes are all going the same way. And then we'll pop these guys in here. Cute, cute, cute. I've never met a gingham that wasn't happy. All right, let's see what else you're working on tonight. I'm going to go way down to the bottom because you guys are really, really busy in here. So Alyssa says, resizing quilts. I'm very active in Quilts of Valor. Our quilts are about 60 by 80. I can usually resize up or down by adding or eliminating borders. So good. That's wonderful to know. And this one, Siri says, Siri from Texas here. I'm watching Quilt-Cam and wanted to let you know I have 32 Midnight Flight blocks finished from our Temple, Texas retreat in February. 4 more to go. Love the pattern. So she's loving Midnight Flight, which was in our book More Adventures with Leaders and Enders, and that's another one that uses a lot of 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles and 2.5 inch squares. Half square triangles are also in there. What else is in there? Oh, 4 patches, because they're my favorite. So she's having fun with that. Glad to hear from you. Wonderful. Carol says, Carol Deal. Carol Deal is the one who gave me, the wonderful gal, who is no longer Ugly Betty. We just call her Black Betty. And I absolutely love this machine. Thank you. Sewing on Blue Ridge Beauty blocks tonight, and she's enjoying Quilt-Cam, and she sent along a photo with her Bernina. So she ditched Black Betty to me and sent her photo with her Bernina. So she's working on Blue Ridge Beauty. Guess what? Half square triangles and 4 patches. There are so many great things that you can do with basic, simple units that once you master these units, and the units are coming out the right size and they fit together easily, you can do countless quilts with these. So keep working on just those basics, and then you'll be able to combine them together in different ways to come up with your own designs. Beautiful, Carol. Good to hear you all the way from Altoona tonight. And then we've got Cheryl says, Scrappy Mountains, after seeing you at the Osnaburg Quilt Luncheon in East Canton, Ohio, I finally figured out what I want to do with a layer cake and some fat quarters of Northern Cardinal that I bought several years ago. Took a couple of tries to get the right layout, but I like this one best. Ooh, that looks so cool! You've got a square. This is so cool. Do you see how she's superimposed what looks like a frame around the center diamond by changing the color of the background of her blocks? Is that cool or what? I have never seen this. That is amazing. I love it. Thank you for sharing that with us all. And that one, again, is from Cheryl Barrows. Cheryl, I want you to send me a picture when the whole thing's done, because that is the bomb. That is just great. Lynn Chapman says, under my needle for my grandson Jake, fused bicycle shapes, and I plan on stitching them down by hand. Oh, those are so cute. So somebody is evidently into, I keep looking, this is mirror, I have to move mirror image of what I think I do. So here's the bicycles for her grandson Jake. Those are beautiful. Love it. The bright primary colors, and I like, I'm biggie sizing this so that you can see that the alternate blue fabric also has bicycles on it. So I definitely sense a theme. Gorgeous. How fun. Isn't it neat when your kids love quilts? Our oldest son, Jason, stayed with us at the cabin this past weekend. And I got the cutest photo of him snuggled up on the couch. I bet I can find that. I bet I can find that in my photos. He was passed out on the couch because he and his dad had been doing quite a bit of work. And the ottoman was pushed up next to the couch, and Sadie was on that, and I had a log cabin quilt over the both of them, and they were both just sawing logs. It was so great. Let's see. Where is that photo? Maybe I don't have it anymore. Maybe. I don't want to waste your time trying to find this. Oh, there they... Now, is that them? Yeah. He'll probably shoot me for showing this on Quilt-Cam, but this is my son Jason and our dog Sadie, and she's on the couch annex, aka the ottoman, and he's under the quilt. I love it when my kids grab my quilts to snuggle under, and I asked him, he has a little house in Columbia. I said, you have enough quilts? Do you need quilts? He says, Mom, I can never have too many quilts. It's like, good answer. Good answer. So there are some quilts as soon as a book is retired that need to go his way, and I know that he will use them and love them the way that I love to see them used. Okay, so we're going to add this next block together here. And just do this whole routine again. Okay. I felt that one flip. You know what it is there's a little lip on the needle plate that catches seam allowances. So usually I can put a piece of tape over that, and then the seam allowances just float right over the tape. I had to do that this weekend also. Okay. One for the done pile. We're making progress here. So at this point, I've used up all the 4 patches. We made the other block. This is as far as I can go on this block without removing it from the machine. So I need something to sew here as an ender. So what I will do is take the next set of neutral and red. And we start building block number 3 while we're assembling block number 2. So one block is just that much behind the other, and they kind of, just like bicycle pedals, right? We don't bicycle like this. So one's up here, one's down here, and then they just, the blocks just kind of chase each other that way. Some of these are just absolute favorite scraps. What did I do wrong here? Oh, I didn't. Yes, I did. Did I? I did! We gotta switch. No, maybe I can. No, we gotta switch the middle row around. Yes? No? What did I do? Oh, I put them in the corners and not in the centers, I think. Okay, so this was a fail, but we'll get it going. Maybe. This is what happens when you're talking too much. So that was right. Then that was wrong. Yeah. Okay. You can't talk and sew at the same time. Somebody just came in to see me. Hi, Sadie. What you doing? Huh? Yesterday, there was somebody target practicing. We live in a place where we have small acreage, but it's acreage here, and that's better. I don't know how I did that other problem. So we're going to send this one through first. We have our way out of a pickle. And somebody was doing target practice, and she does not like guns at all, and she came in and jumped on my lap while I was sewing. you know, front paws, and as in, make it stop, Mommy, make it stop. I don't like it, Mommy. Also we don't like thread. Okay. All right, we're gonna give this a press. See if we can get back on track here. I really get into red, white, and blue around Memorial Day. So I can sense that red, white, and blue flag season happening. It goes from Memorial Day all the way till Labor Day for me. So happy to have some red, white, and blue to play with. This is the center one. So if I take this is the top row. Then I can snip this center off and be back right where I needed to be with this guy. Okay. And then again, this is as far as I can go with this block before removing it from the machine. So I need something to chase it. So at this point, I am going to cut this into 4 patches. There's no need to measure in half, you just get an approximate half. That's why we add an extra inch. So if you are coming to meet me in Birmingham this next week, I can't wait to see you. I still have to pack my clothes and I have to pack a project. That's all that's left to do. Everything else is already in the van waiting. The van is full of gas. That's all ready. I need to look on weather.com and find out what the weather's going to be. And I have a sneaking suspicion I should have gotten a pedicure today. Whoops, wrong line. My son showed up in Virginia in shorts because it was 90 degrees in South Carolina and we were at 52. So he was a little chilly. I don't want to overdress and need capris, so we will check the weather. Okay, these are now sliced. See, just that little bit of margin helps. And now these 4 patches become the leader enders while I am putting the rest of this together. Let's do one more seam and then we will pick up some messages. Are you busy making Easter dresses for daughters or granddaughters? Remember that? Remember when Easter was, you got new shoes, a new dress, a new hat, maybe a new purse, and everybody loved to dress up for Easter Sunday? I miss that. I remember one year my mom made us, I was the only daughter for quite a while, and she made us matching dresses for Easter. And that was the most fun ever. I was probably about 8. This year, Easter is just going to be very quiet. Jason won't be coming up because I don't have enough days home. And he's got to work the day after and the day before. One done. And with me getting home late on Saturday night, after driving home from Birmingham, I'm sure that the traffic on Saturday is going to be a nightmare. I think the last thing that I want to do is cook a big Easter dinner on Sunday, so it's probably going to be steaks on the grill. And I'm fine with that. Okie dokie. See, they just open up so easy when you remember to hold one down and lift the opposite one up. One more, and then we will get back to the email. would like more than 3 blocks to show for a quilt cam. You know. Okay. Now this one's done. I just love this little shape in the center. It just makes it so fun. I'm not sure what that looks like. But, you know, just a kind of a, almost like the garlic knots twist kind of a thing. Very fun. Okay, so we have, coming on in, Elaine Green says, my bad, because remember she had the Lemoyne Star email, but no photos. So here's her photos. Oh, those are pretty, Elaine. The quilting texture is awesome. So she's made 3 little table runners with some Lemoyne stars, and I love how they look like they're dancing, twisting and turning. Those are just gorgeous. Beautiful. Let's see if I can do just one bigger to see what you've got fabric-wise. I like that you've got different colors going on in the backgrounds of these two. It's not just all stark white, but she's got a little bit of detail going on in her fabric choices for the background of her stars as well. Really, really nice. Thank you for sending those. All the way from Michigan. Love to quilt with you during Quilt-Cam. I'm working on charity bindings from Diane Oakes in Portage, Michigan. Is it Portage or Portage? I'm not sure. But she's got this photo from her studio. She is big into making charity quilts, and I can't believe the number of charity quilts that comes out from this gal's studio. She just has a heart of gold. Thank you, Diane, for sharing those. Those look wonderful. I think I recognize a few of those from what you showed me when I was in Michigan a few weeks ago. This is from Seema, who says, Quilt-Cam in Aussie. Thanks for Quilt-Cam. I get to spend this morning with you, with the Quilt-Cam gang, working on a test block for my sister-in-law's Rose of Sharon quilt. With Spud beside me, better than yoga today. You know, quilt today, yoga tomorrow. Should be on a t-shirt, right? She says, I don't have problems resizing quilts as I have done some of your mystery quilts as lap size. I make 1/3 to 1/2, then number of blocks, and at the end add the extra making things bigger or smaller. I see your Spud, so sweet. So she's working on the Rose of Sharon block with machine applique right there on her machine, and if you look at the side of the picture, there's a kitty in a basket. See that, Spud? Sweet. I love it. Love it. She's also another Bernina fan. Good job. Lisa Brooks says, first time watching live. How are you, Lisa? She says, officially on vacation as of 2 hours ago. Congratulations. Binding my quilt and watching Quilt-Cam. Looks like she's binding in the dark. She's got some wonder clips there, Quilt-Cam going. She's soon to have a fine finish. I mean, that would be number 1 on my vacation list too, to sit and relax and bind a quilt. Perfect. Glad you could join us tonight. Okay, and we have Susan Erler says, thank you for having Quilt-Cam such inspiration boost. Glad the surgery went well. Me too. Although, you know, they trimmed off what stitches they could and got out like the knots and stuff. But she said there's some stitches on the inside that may work themselves out as wild hairs. So, you know, those may work their way out. I finished a quickie top for my dad as a couch quilt. It's 5-inch cut batik squares with 1.5 inch cut sashings and cornerstones. It worked up really fast, and I've always wanted to make something with cornerstones. His colors are blues and greens. This is just beautiful, and your dad's going to love this. You know, when you're gifting a quilt to somebody, they don't care how intricate the patchwork is. If you have a couple of charm packs and some sashing fabric and some cornerstones, you can really come up with a nice masculine quilt that somebody would really dearly love. This is going to be wonderful for your dad. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. 5.5-inch squares or 5-inch squares, you know, whether you save nickels or whatever, are just such a usable size. I love that your cornerstones, are they black or are they dark navy? Your border's navy, so I'm thinking maybe they're navy. But those are really, really nice, and he's going to love that. Joe Axelson says, strings. I couldn't decide what to work on tonight. Oh, I have that problem all the time. So I decided on string piecing. I bought this 99K from another quilt viller, and I adore it. 1 bucket of strings, 1 machine, and some coffee, and some phone book paper, and she is ready to go. So here she is on her little 99 working on some string blocks. Those 99s can't be beat. You know, they're a 3/4 size machine, full size workhorse motor. So, you know, the machine size may be small, but you're going to get full power out of that baby. And it's a wonderful machine. Those looks just great. I also love it in a cabinet because I love a flat surface to sew. So here's her string bucket. It overfloweth. So this is something that I keep next to my cutting table. And as I am cutting sashings or bindings or borders or whatever, there's always just a little bit. And sometimes I will move my ruler over 1 inch so that I can save the whole thing. And sometimes that piece from squaring up the edge of fabric might start at about 1.5 inches wide and taper down to, you know, almost nothing. Sometimes it's like a big long skinny triangle. I'll trim off the tail end that I can't use. But then the whole rest of the piece just goes in the string bucket. My string buckets give me hours of pleasure. So I'm glad that you are saving those. Okay, so we've done 1, 2, 3. Here's another one. 4. Okay, and maybe I can just lay out this one guy. We're right at an hour so far, and Quilt-Cam can't go much longer because I still have to write tomorrow's blog post, pack my clothes, get the rest of the stuff in the van, and my project, and my machine, and my table, because I'm going to be on the road for 11 days. And I have to get to bed at some point. But we're going to lay this one out. So I have to remember that the 4 go in this position, and I can pop this one down as soon as I get these started. I love patchwork. It's like playing a game as we decide what's going to go where and how and when. So I'll sew this one here, sneak this one off the back and add it back in its place where it goes down here. And once you get the hang of spinning those 4 patches, it really does. It gets rid of the whole knot that is in the center, which helps that 4 patch reach the dimensions that it's supposed to because it doesn't have a whole wad of fabric in the middle. Whoops, make sure those are going correctly. And now we're on a roll. We're going to sew this one and sew this one. And then I've gone as far as I can with this one, so at this point I would be grabbing the next block, starting the 4 patch center for it, and build those 4 patches as the leaders and enders while this block's coming together. I like to work on 2 blocks at a time, an engine and a caboose, and it really helps me build my stack in fast order, and it keeps me organized while I'm doing it, and I don't forget, okay, what was I going to put with this one, or I don't need a chain of 147 4 patches that are going to take me a long time to press them all and spin them all. It just happens in small amounts. Let's answer just a couple more, and then I'm going to let you go for the evening, and maybe you've got some other things that you need to have done as well. Jackie Tucker says, Quilt-Cam in Southern California. Hooray, seeing you live tonight. I sure do need a quilt time with others of like mind. I'm traveling and currently and actually in the Eastern time zone right now. No sewing for several weeks now, but have been working on stash enhancement. All 1 yard cuts except the white that is on the left side. I got 2 yards because you can always use more neutrals. So here are some of the fabrics that Jackie has picked up on her travels. I am hoping that I will have time to do some scouting out while I'm on my travels. You know, I'm headed down 85, and anytime 85 takes me past the Cox Road exit out of Gastonia, I just have to make a pit stop at Mary Jo's. It's just the right amount of distance. It's an hour and a half from home, and I usually need a potty stop by then, so you may as well do it at a fabric store, right? So we will be there. So this is greetings from Jackie. So glad to have you join us, Jackie. Nancy Neely says, here's the picture. This is the picture of the K-facet quilt that she's making. Oh, that's fun. So she's got a lot of bright, happy, scrappy going on here with the K-facet fabrics. I've got some Kafes that I dearly love, and I'm almost afraid to cut them up because I like them so much. We'll have to find something to do with those as well. And then one more. We are going to go all the way down to people who got missed. Oh, Pat Levac and her table runner. She says, I'm making this runner as a gift for my sons-in-law. And this is the one that she forgot to include. And I wonder if I turn this? Yes. Very, very easy 8-pointed evening stars, half square triangles, lots of color, lots of action, and that's perfect for Easter. Thank you, Pat. She also says on this one that they're letting us stay at their place in Florida over spring break. So I think that's a wonderful gift. Glad you're feeling better. Also glad I'm able to see Quilt-Cam. And we're going to do one more here. Let's spin it and see where it stops. Jan Sennett says, Jamestown Landing. Good to see you on Quilt-Cam. One of my 2017 goals is to finish Jamestown Landing. 840 half square triangles are done. And she's now working on those broken dishes blocks, assembling them in 4s. So here's her Jamestown Landing bucket. And I love that she keeps little notes too. I do this for myself. I'll put a little note in there. I'll put my piece count so that I know how many things are together. And I will also pin things in sets like this so that I remember what goes with what. If I've got half square triangles done, I'll pin them in sets of 10 so they're easy to count. I love all of those things that make our passion of patchwork easy. I've got a message here on my message box that says, oh, hi girls! Hi in the studio. So excited to see you later this month. And this is from Irene and Sherry over at Cotton to Quilts in Louisville, Kentucky. So I'll be seeing you in just a few weeks, girls. Have a wonderful, happy Easter. I love that they're both sewing on their 301s. Sherry, I'm biggie sizing you because you're just way too cute. So this is Sherry, my antique mall hunter in crime. And this is Irene. I'm going to biggie size you and move you over, girlfriend, so we can see you. Here's Irene. She's just two really great friends, and I'm happy to see you in Texas in just a few weeks. Okay, everybody, I am off to go put the laundry from the dryer in the washer into the dryer and finish packing my clothes and get myself ready for tomorrow's blog post. This feed that you're watching right now will be pinned to the top of my Facebook page, the Quiltville Friends Facebook page. So you can search for that if you don't know where to find it. I will also archive it up to YouTube, and from there embed it in tomorrow morning's blog post, and it will be archived under the Quilt-Cam's tab, which is a very easy way to find everything. And a little birdie also told me that there'll be some other fun stuff on the blog as well as this post tomorrow. So if it's still early where you are and you're in the zone and you're sewing away, you don't have to turn this off just because I am. Put a few more stitches in, make a dent in that project, let it be the first thing that you see in the morning, and then pat yourself on the back for the good work that you did tonight. I will see you for our next Quilt-Cam, probably not till close to the end of April, because these next trips are just on top of each other with only 2 days in between. So be looking for the end of April, and we'll have some more fun then, and I'll be able to share with you how many of these actually got made in Birmingham. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.